After Darth Bane eliminated the remaining Sith in the galaxy and reformed the Sith Order from its numbers to its very way of thinking, the Sith became something far different than what had come from the Order in the centuries prior. In fact, little remained of the Sith way of life, apart from their allegiance to the dark side and the way of attaining power. The Sith had transformed from generals and warlords to world leaders. But there was a period before this drastic change in which the Sith were considered amongst the most ferocious and bloodthirsty beings the galaxy had to offer, lacking much of the sophistication that would come in the generations after Bane. In the era of the Old Republic, Sith were often separated into different classes, from Inquisitors to political leaders, but the topic of today's video is the class that many consider the most dangerous, the Sith Warriors. Quote, "The true Sith have spent centuries building their strength in the depths of unknown space. The Sith Emperor patiently planned for the day when his Sith Empire would repay the Jedi Order for humiliating defeats of the past. In that time, generations of Sith have come and gone, working hard and devoting their lives to the dream of vengeance." The Sith Warriors were the Sith separated from the Order for their immense skills in combat. While other Sith may have orchestrated and constructed wars, the Sith Warriors truly won the day for the Empire. The life of a Sith warrior was once solely dedicated to combat and the way of the dark side, mainly focusing on the emotions of anger and hatred, and the power they gifted those truly cemented in them. Oftentimes, many Sith warriors lacked the patience to outlast an enemy, making them more prone into charging into the heat of battle and emerging victorious purely based off of superior skill rather than combative tact. Of all the classes, Sith warriors craved duels from Jedi the most, as they desired almost above all to prove their superiority over even the greatest the Jedi had to offer. This hatred stemmed from years of previous Sith ingraining hatred for the Jedi into the Sith Order as a whole, but specifically the warriors, as the Sith leaders were aware the Jedi Order would pose the largest threat in the Sith Empire's quest for galactic-wide domination, and for revenge for the numerous past defeats the Jedi dealt the Sith. Sith warriors were also known for their leadership, as although they were bloodthirsty and unrelenting, they seldom failed to lead by example, always ready and willing to engage in a duel or fight, as there was no greater honor for a Sith warrior than death in service of the Sith Empire. Darth Malgus is perhaps the most legendary and noteworthy of the Sith warriors, commanding armies and even leading a successful takeover of the Jedi's very own temple on Coruscant. The way of manipulation and cunning was often lost on Sith warriors, as they held strongest to their standards and oddly seldom lied. During the Old Republic, after acquiring the Jedi Temple, when Malgus learned the Sith Empire had plans to negotiate with the Jedi and the Republic, he was furious, as the idea of even speaking to the enemy was completely appalling to a Sith warrior of his esteem and status. Many Sith warriors also had a tendency to abandon the rest of the Sith Order, never losing their path when concerning the path of the dark side, but more so the actions and beliefs of other Sith, specifically their leaders. This is the primary reason very few Sith warriors rose to the top of the Order, as their unwillingness to compromise made them difficult to elect as the true leaders of the Sith Empire. There were, however, several exceptions over the years, of course with the most noteworthy again being Darth Malgus, although he too never became the Sith Emperor under the established Sith Empire, instead constructing his own empire when he claimed the title of Emperor. Within the Sith Warrior class, there were two subclasses, one referred to as Sith Juggernauts, who would charge into battle and strike their enemies with immense fear, often smashing through opponents. The other subclass was referred to as Sith Marauders, and focused more on sneak and quick attacks, chopping enemies to pieces before they even realized what had happened. Despite being the very machine that pushed the Sith Empire forward, many of the higher-ranked Sith in the political scene believed the Sith Warriors lesser, and thus caused much contention between the separate classes. The Sith Warriors tended to wear heavy and foreboding armor, and most requested even experimental armor for wartime, as no matter what the cost, a warrior desired to push themselves to the brink, and hold themselves there as long as possible. Although not as immersed in the Sith doctrine as other members of the Order, the Sith Warriors often held the most potent connection to the dark side, as they wore their emotions on their shoulders and allowed the full power of the darker emotions to fuel their blades. Quote, "Constant war will be your life, our life, nothing more," end quote. Although rarer, Sith warriors actually did exist during the Rule of Two era, with several Sith lords choosing to train Sith warriors as their apprentices, as their combative prowess was so often far beyond that of other Sith. However, in most cases, Sith masters had no intention of allowing a Sith warrior to surpass them and to inherit the title of Dark Lord, as similar to centuries past, they believed the warriors more savage and lacked the intelligence necessary to further the Order to its greatest extent. Darth Maul was a prime example of a Sith warrior, with his master even stating so after his apparent death. Quote, "Warriors are animals. Agents like Darth Maul have their uses, but can never expand beyond their limited set of tasks." End quote. So how do you guys feel about Sith warriors? And who is your favorite Sith warrior? For me, it would definitely have to be Darth Malgus. He advanced so far for what he was. If you enjoyed the video and feel it deserves it, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like, as it helps the channel out a great deal. If you would like to interact with me directly and exchange theories and talk Star Wars, you can follow me on Twitter at Stupendous Wave. If you haven't already, maybe consider subscribing to ensure you stay up to date with everything Star Wars related. Thanks again so much for watching. May the Force be with you and have a great day.